One of the most helpful distinctions that I've ever learned about selling came from somebody who's a mentor to both Steve and myself, Dr. George Pransky. And he talked about selling in terms of receptivity. And he pointed out that in many ways, the difference that makes the difference in selling isn't your ability to overcome resistance, but it's not trying to sell anything until there's receptivity in the mind of the buyer. In other words, what is it that causes somebody to be inclined to resist as opposed to being inclined to buy? And I remember when he was talking, I had an insight. And my insight was that it was like a tabletop. And that if you put a marble on the tabletop and the tabletop's flat, then you push the marble towards the person. Okay, there's my offer. And they either push it back to you or they take it. But if the tabletop is tilted towards you, then the marble keeps wanting to come back to you, and you've got to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing to get it to the other person. And that's when they're inclined to resist, when they're inclined to go, hang on, what are you trying to sell me here? But that similarly, if you can tilt the table, if you can tilt the field even a tiny, tiny bit so that they are inclined to buy, they are inclined to listen, they are already receptive, well, then everything you say is likely to be heard, and they can make a real decision. So instead of making a decision about just no, because I'm scared of being manipulated, I'm scared of being sold to, they're inclined to listen to you. And the way George described what makes people inclined to buy, inclined to listen, receptive, versus inclined to avoid, resist, not listen, were three simple things, and he talked about it in terms of a three-legged stool. And one of the legs of the stool was goodwill. Just that if somebody can feel that you care about them genuinely, that you have their best interests at heart, not yours, they'll at least listen to what you have to say. They're inclined to listen. But most of the time, because we have all this scarcity thinking and we all have all this worry thinking and we all have this greedy thinking, all this insecure thinking, really, they can feel that we're really there for us and we're trying to pretend it's for them. But if you're selling to Oliver, if you're selling to that person in your life that you care about most, that you love unconditionally, well, then that goodwill will be there. And the very fact that there's goodwill will incline them to listen, will incline them to be receptive, will incline them to buy. Now, the second thing is what George talked about, not having a dog in the fight, not having a horse in the race. When it matters too much to you, for whatever reason, that they buy what you're selling, they're going to resist it just almost biologically. They did this great research study with Nobel Prize winning scientists, and they'd noticed that if gorillas want to promote a fight in the wild, they poke each other in the chest. And a gorilla can withstand being poked about 5 times before it fights back. It's just kind of built into the gorilla. Well, they decided to see what would happen if they got Nobel Prize winning scientists and had them poke each other in the chest. And they could only ever get to 3 before it turned into a fight. And there's something in us that just resists anything being pushed on us, even if it's for our own good. And people can feel in you, why does this matter so much to you? So sometimes, for some people, when I talk to them about selling to Oliver, selling to somebody that you really genuinely care about, their way of expressing care is, I know best, so you need to do this because this is good for you. Well, when you start to see that the same intelligence that runs you, runs them. The same innate knowing about what you need in the moment is also in them. It starts making less and less sense to push your good ideas onto anybody else, and more sense to present what's on offer as clearly as you can and let them make the best decision they know how to make, instead of creating an artificial sense of pressure, an artificial sense of insecurity. You want to do everything you can to put them at their ease. You want to do everything you can to give them time to think, to give them time for their best thinking to look at what it is that you want to present, as opposed to their most scared, uptight, or insecure thinking. The other reason, of course, sometimes people have a dog in the fight is because it's about them, because I need the money. And one of the things Steve told me years ago that I found incredibly helpful is you might need the money, but you never need it from them. And so when you feel in you that, I need my horse to win, it's just a sign that maybe you need to back off. And maybe you need to get back to that place where you recognize, hey, I was born okay. I don't need this to make me whole. I'm coming into this already full. Now, the third leg of the stool is certainty. Now, in traditional sales training, that's often talked about as you need to sell yourself first. But in this case, the certainty doesn't come from having convinced yourself that it's good for them. It comes from just taking an honest look and seeing, hey, do I genuinely think this will make a really positive difference for this person? And if I do, that will come across. And if I don't, then why am I offering it to them in the first place? Because if I'm not needy, if I'm not caught up in insecurity, if I'm not worrying about how I'm going to make my rent while I'm talking to them, then I would never want to push something onto somebody that I don't genuinely think would be of benefit for them. And again, people pick up on your certainty or doubt. Now, if you're not sure, that doesn't mean you can't talk to them about it. You can explore it with them. And people don't realize that. I didn't know that. I didn't know I could just have a conversation with somebody and find out whether what I had to offer, what I thought would make a difference to them, really would. And what I found since then is there are times where my clients and customers convince me because they're more certain than I am that what's on offer will be of benefit for them. Now again, with any of these things, if you try and use them tactically, if you try and, how do I make them think that I like them? Well, try liking them. That works every time, right? How do I make them see that I have no dog in the fight, that it's not about me, it's about them? Well, there's a really easy way to do that too. Don't let it be about you. Make sure you find that place in you where you know you're okay before you engage with them. And, well, okay, how do I create certainty? Well, you don't. You don't create certainty. You look, and if you see that it's genuinely of benefit, you'll have certainty. And those three things, authentic goodwill, genuinely not having a horse in the race, not needing them to do anything, and your certainty that what you're offering will be of value to them, naturally inclines them to listen, inclines them to be receptive, inclines them to buy.